Okay, so sorry about that. So good afternoon and welcome to At the Workshop. This is another one of the winter interviews that we're having, and we're here with Rich Bryan. We're going to have a quick chat about his usual things, about the history prior to F1, what he's up to at the moment. As you can see, we've got two vehicles there, and I'm sure Richard will tell us about the one that's furthest away from us at the moment. We're also going to have to ask him about his future plans, maybe ask him what he thinks about what's happening at Bellevue. And then we've got some questions from a few of you guys as well. Whilst you're watching, if you do want to send some questions in, just let me know. We'll try and get through those as well. So first thing to do is say good afternoon and welcome to Rich. How are you, mate? You all right? Excellent. Well, do appreciate you doing this for us, so thank you very much. So what we're going to do is I'll just ask you first of all about your history prior to F1. So just let us know what your racing pedigree is, please.
So I started off in minis when I was about 14 and a half, really. That just came about because my dad wanted to get back into racing. Got told he was too old, mainly by my mother. So I ended up with mini stock. So I had about a season and a half in minis. And yeah, after about half a season of finding my feet, first thing I'd ever driven on an oval at 14, jumped straight into F1s when I was 16 years old.
And you were saying earlier about some of the pedigree that you were racing against in the mini stock. Just give people an idea of what you're up against.
So when I first started, there was quite a few top names nowadays. Obviously, we had the likes of Tarmac, Stan Johnson, Mickey Brennan, so it was quite a calibre, really. Definitely interesting.
Any decent wins or decent incidents you can remember at all?
No, as I say, I was blue top for a lot of it just because I just purely didn't have the time to find my feet. Like I say, I hadn't grown up driving when I was a kid on a farm. It was the first time I'd driven was practice around Buxton.
Excellent. And then you jumped straight into the Formula One. Did you not think about going to V8s or mod stocks or anything like that first to maybe find your feet?
We toyed with the idea of going into Formula 2s or something like that at the time. And then I think just the love of F1s, really. Our family's always been around Formula 1s, so we just jumped straight into it, really.
So let's have a look at what you're up to at the moment then. So we've got the current vehicle, which is the one you used last year. We've got a couple of questions about it in a second. So if we just go around exactly what you're up to at the moment. So it's like most drivers in the winter, it's up on, well, two wheels, this one actually, which is a bit further along than Austin is at the moment. So just give us an idea what you're up to at the moment with it.
I hope it should be further along. We started after the British last year. So at the minute, the biggest job we've had on is making a new rear engine mounting, because all the way through the 2017 season and start of 2018, I was blowing gearboxes up for fun. And essentially, I worked my way through the drivetrain, and we've got to the point where the engine mounting must be the cause, assuming it's bent. So me and the car had a fallout, so I pulled the engine out of it and decided to start again with it.
Excellent. And I can see quite a lot of steel work here as well. No front bumpers, stuff like that. So I'm presuming that's all going to be done in the next few weeks?
Yeah, just giving it a basic freshen up. The winter before last, just purely down to time, we didn't have much to do with it. So this is about 2 years late, really. It's due for just a good going over.
Okay, can see the back axle's out. Now, what Austin, when I was talking to him last week, he's gone to this 4-link thing. So is yours a full 4-link back axle?
No, we're still sticking with 2-link, just purely because I'd like the simplicity of it. Once you can get it working, I do think you can overcomplicate stock cars sometimes, so we're sticking with 2-link. It's always served me right. We have tried 4-link in the past. I got annoyed and went out and then put it back to 3-link, and we had a good result around Sheffield, so we've never gone back.
So for those at home that don't know about the differences on it, if just as layman terms, what is the main differences? Obviously 4 and 2-link, just give us a quick overview of what the main difference is.
Essentially, without going too deep into it, it just controls how much your axle rotates under power and the angles of it and the radius of which it raises up and down below the car.
So obviously the more links, the more things you can adjust and play around with and mess about with it.
Yeah, more control, more complexity, more links, everything has to be in line, otherwise you start getting things binding up. So that's why I do like as little links as possible, because when you bend one, it's quite easy to put straight.
Excellent, thank you. So what's the engine that goes in this one then?
So this one is a 440 small block. It's seen me right, really. It's had a couple of refreshes over the years, bits and bobs. There's nothing too special with it, but it just does me right, really. I'd say it's probably about middle of the road. It's not a top-line engine, but we do look after it.
Okay. Excellent. And do you do it yourself, or do you send it off to people to get it looked after for you?
We have, fortunately, Andy Jacklin, previously 137. He is my technical helpline and looks after everything sort of with our engines. I do try and do a bit myself, but it's just down to experience, and as I say, Andy's always served as well.
Well, I think I'm over to Jacqueline's next week, actually. So I'll mention it. Yeah, both of them there, so no problem. Right, so let's have a look at the front end. It's just traditional, normal front end, front axle. You know, there are some people who use the fabricated axles now, isn't there? Because they're getting a bit harder to find, these axles for these cars.
Yeah, they are. One of my ambitions is to make a fabricated front axle, because I do have a few ideas in my head, but it just comes down to time. I think probably it'll come about once I've exhausted my stock of transit front axles, really.
No problem at all. Right, so let's have a look at the other one. So for those that can just see at the back of the truck here, we've got a new one over here as well. So we're going to ask about the history of this one, where we've got it from. Do say I love that scoop on the top. So just give us an idea of what's going on with this one.
Yeah, so it's the chassis was built by James Lund a good few years ago now, and he just had it sitting around. He wasn't really doing much with it, didn't want to write a lot of money as a bare chassis, so we took it off his hands and we've slowly put it together.
Excellent. And is this going to be maybe a tarmac car or a replacement to the car you've got now?
At the minute, the way it's built, we're gonna have a crack on tarmac with it, just because it's purely something I've always wanted to try, just to do. At least I can say I've been there and done it. Whether it's good or not, I don't know. If not, I might convert it to race on Shale. So we'll just have a play on tarmac and see how we go. Excellent.
So we're going to just have a quick walk around it. Anything particular on this that's different than any other car at all? Or is it just pretty standard to everyone else?
Yeah, again, there's nothing too special within it. There's nothing out of the ordinary. I'd say the only difference is this has a 4-link front end on it. Should help going into the corners under braking on tarmac. Aside from that, it's, as I say, it's much of the muchness. The way the cars are going nowadays with the rules, you are in a smaller and smaller box, but as I say, it's we know what works, so why change it?
That's it. So we were talking with other drivers about the changes to the MSD box, for example. Do you think that's the right way for the sport to go, to try and stop costs going too high?
Yes, I do agree in that it is nice that we do have spec parts and it's clearly defined in the rules. That bit I'm quite pleased with. On the other hand, this car's already on its 3rd MSD box and it's never raced.
Oh my God!
As opposed to the Shale car that is 8 years old and has only ever had 1 MSD box. So
yeah, so I can understand the problems there with costs, of course, but hopefully in the long run, if we're all the same, going in the same direction, it should assist with cost of the sport.
Yeah, as I say, and something like an MSD is normally fairly reliable, so it's one outlay and it should keep everybody level, really.
So I've been looking at your results for the last 12 months, and you just raced at Bellevue, didn't you, last year?
Yeah, to be fair, apart from the gearbox blowing up, we raced 4 times, blew the gearbox up twice and won twice. Should have won a 3rd time, but I made a mess of it, passing when I was 3rd, passing 2nd place. I'm sure Carl will remind me of that one day. So the results worked out pretty fine, as I say. It's just we wanted to get the tarmac car finished and time, and I just had to call a point. Otherwise, I'd have continued racing. I wanted to touch the tarmac car, so we just had to draw a line under it at some point.
So yeah, because you got the win in the Grand National and the win in Heat 1 as well, wasn't it? In May, I think, the Bellevues.
Yeah, it was 2 consecutive meetings, which was quite nice to do, really. Even more so for the 2nd time. My father-in-law had come over from Florida. It was the first time in watching, so first race, first time in Timmy. I went out and won, and I kind of had to explain it's not always like this.
It's not easy, yeah. Brilliant. And so, as we talk about Bellevue, then obviously a couple of weeks ago it was announced that there's going to be housing probably stuck on there. And we had a chat with Steve Reese, and he said that in the end it will be gone. And what we're trying to do is just delay the possibility of the houses on there. It's going to be a big kick in the teeth in the sport in this area when it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. As I say, we up until a couple of years ago we could race 20 times, eight a year at Coventry, probably 7 or 8 at Bellevue, a couple of Stokes and Sheffields, and that's enough for the level we do. But Bellevue going, as I say, it will be massive, I think, especially for the north, because it does survive on a lot of, it's probably one of the few tracks left that survive on its local drivers, really.
So if you were able to make decisions about the sport, etc., do you think going to new tracks that are already there now and trying to get all this political parts with RCI, etc., out of the way, just get to as many tracks as we can once these bigger stadium sort of tracks close?
It's a difficult question, really. I think we need to probably invest in what we've got now. Yes, it's nice to go to new tracks and experience different tracks, different types of racing, but we don't want to weaken what we've got by extending it. So I do think I've yet to go to Northampton on Shale, just purely for time, but I can't wait to go there next year. And I think we're just needing to invest on what we've got now and then make it strong and then move forward from there.
Excellent, brilliant. Let's get a bit more cheery up then, rather than talk about tracks closing. So we've had some questions off some people online, and I think one or two of them are connected to what we have been mentioning there. So let's just get the old sheet of paper, and we'll get the questions out, and I'll try and read them while I'm videoing and all that stuff as well. So we've had a one-off number, well, I don't know what his name is, but he's 306 off Stuxnet, and he's basically said, I think Rich is a very underrated driver, and that he just doesn't seem to get the rub of the green when it comes to luck. So he's got a few questions. So having served quite a long stock car apprentice, within budget and available time in mind, where does he see his racing career peaking? As a regular star grade driver or a good blue top?
I'll be honest, I think whenever a driver starts out, they think they're going to win everything. Realistically, unless you have the time and the budget available, I've come to realise that as I've got older, unfortunately. You're not going to take over the world. So I think I'm happy the level we're at now, the time we put in the workshop, work commitments between me and my guys who help out. I think we're fairly happy where we are. I mean, I'd like to probably get to blue top, probably win a final, maybe make a world final, as that's still something I haven't done yet. But no, I think we're just having fun where we're at now, and like I say, this year, as long as we can win a race or two, it's more about the trophies, really.
Excellent. And this follows on to the next question that he's given to us. If the opportunity arose, would you prefer to drive for someone else, like in a sponsored or car owner's car, like they do in Holland, where they race for the actual team? Or is it a case where you want your own car and you like doing all the other bits as well, not just the racing?
I love being up here. I love working on the cars. Yes, maybe an arrive and drive feature, but I know when I go out to race, if I've built it myself, made the mistakes myself, when we win, it's even more rewarding. Yeah.
Excellent. And last one from him. What's your favourite task back in the garage, and what's your dislike?
Favourite task, I enjoy the more technical side of it. Engines, gearboxes, clutches, the fine detail of it. The worst task, it's either probably got to be washing it off, because it's always the morning after the night before, and you're either aching and battered because you've had a crap night's racing, or you're hungover and still a little bit drunk because you've had a good night's racing. So you're never in a good mood to wash it off.
And he's mentioned tyres and things there. What's your situation and your thinking around the tyres? Do you think it could be a bit more simplistic than what it is at the moment?
There is a simplicity way to go. I do think it can be. At the minute, it is cheaper. I'm not probably similar with the MSDs. If we do go down a more direct route, it will probably cost more, but it will level the playing field. I like the way, obviously at the minute, there's a lot of commonality between Shale and Tarmac. Well, there was, between Shale and Tarmac, especially with the outside rears and things. But I think it could be a lot simpler.
Excellent, thank you. Right, so we'll go on to another question that we've got. Sorry about this, about the wobbly camera. Trev, he said he seems to remember he read something about your job once in a commentary programme which sounded pretty interesting. So we'd just like to know, what do you actually do for a living?
So going back, that was, well, I've always been involved with flight simulators,
Right.
and that's my main job, military flight simulators. So my previous job, I think that Trevor will be referring to, was I used to travel around the world building a flight simulator for exhibitions. Military aircraft export. As I say, I've been to tons of exotic places, and that was definitely interesting. And now my role is still in the flight simulator world, but I essentially am head up the technical support team for the RAF on their Typhoon simulators.
So you must be the only F1 driver involved in that sort of job then. That's really good.
Yeah, there's a few about the patch at the company I work for, and there's a few who do know what it is. So yeah, I spend my weekdays in a different type of cockpit.
Brilliant. Now, one from Linky. This is going back to where we're talking about costs, actually. Do you think F1 is too expensive from a driver's perspective, or because it is the ultimate short oval formula, are the costs about right for the level of engineering and the level of the stock car family that we are?
Honestly, I do think they're about right, because you can spend what you want to spend. I mean, I do take the view, I try and make a lot myself, I try and repair a lot. Fair enough, if you don't have the time, you can buy a lot off the shelf, or you can get somebody else to do it for you. I think, probably realistically, for what it is, when you do consider it is the top level of oval motorsport outside of America, and probably New Zealand as well, I do think it's about right, actually.
Excellent, thank you. And if you could run the sport and decide any spec changes, what changes would you make to cut the cost of competing without detriment to the actual spectacle of how the sport is?
Well, everybody wants to cut costs.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Every type of motorsport is expensive. I think the biggest thing, probably from my perspective, is shock absorbers. Well, maybe I should stop crashing, and then it should be cheaper. But if I was in charge like that, I think I'd probably pay more attention to the safety side of things, just to, let's say, guard us from the outside world a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So we talk about things like fuel cells, for example.
I think fuel cells would be one way to go. Again, but ironically, that will introduce more cost. I'm planning on putting one in the Tarmac car, more so for future-proofing it, just in case they ever do come in. I know I made a staple in the rule book. So there is that, and there is a trade-off because it doesn't come without cost.
Of course, brilliant. As a Shale driver, would you do tar more often if there was a change of spec to bring both surfaces together? For example, weight, height, inside weight, things like that.
At the minute, from my perspective, they are quite close, or the amount of changes we have to do. We did build the Shale car as a dual surface car, and we have had a play on tarmac every now and then. It's just down to time, because it's quite simple now. All you have to do is change your brake pads. The shockers are the same, change your tyres, and now every car has brake adjusters in. It's quite easy, really, but it just comes down to how much you want to do. We started off trying to do both, and then I got a bit annoyed because I wasn't really getting anywhere on either surface from changing the setup, so now I've stuck to one car. Probably had better results sticking at Shale, being able to build on the setup, really. And again, building on the setup is just time.
Okay. Excellent. Now, I'll let you have a little drink or something, because I'm just going to just go to the people who are watching. There's lots of people watching. If any of you have got any questions at all, please let us know, and we can put them to Rich and see what he thinks. I've just got a couple more that we've had from people on Stuxnet and have been messaged to me. So, Richie P, I think we've already answered this one actually, but we'd like to know where people first experienced the spectacle of F1. So you said your family were involved in it, but you yourself, can you remember your first meeting that you went to?
I've got memories of, probably my earliest memories of a child are coming home on the bus from Hartlepool, probably in 89 or 90. I can remember being sat in the front seat. My earliest memories are Bradford Good Friday meetings. As I say, I got him through the sport. My dad raced during the 80s. Okay. He'd been a spectator all his life, and then raced through the 80s, and then had to eventually pack up when Who's Your Tyres came in. Me and my sister came along. He got a mortgage, and real life took over. Real life took over. Yeah, so we're back into it now.
Excellent. And who do you see at the moment as the most innovative, if I can say that right, or influential driver around today?
Innovative, I'd probably say it's probably, considering the amount of the biggest rule changes we've had recently, I'd probably say it's Nigel Green, because when he brought out his wide tarmac car, and the thing with that was, it was so simple and yet it worked. Yeah. There was no extra car. He didn't have any visibly trick parts on it, but he just took his time, thought about everything, and that worked. So from the rulebook stance, I'd say it's probably of recent times. Mm-hmm. And influential, I'd probably say it's Frankie, because he's been there and done it all, really. Yeah.
Excellent. We've got one more from people who've sent them in. We'll see. He remembers you tried the super stocks type of wing on the car, and he just wants to know what difference, if any, it made to then having the big Shale wings that we're used to at the moment.
So we've made the super stock wing purely because I was too tight to make a normal to buy a Tarmac aerofoil. So it's actually up there in the corner. I just made that on a Saturday afternoon, just for a bit of looks, really. And we thought we'd done a good job of the roll cage shape on this, so kind of wanted to show it off a bit. We did try it round Bellevue, and my memories of it were I spent all meeting messing with my brakes, trying to get the car to turn in properly. So from that aspect, I do think it did make a difference.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. So any other questions? If anybody's got any coming in, I'm just going to look back. We've still got loads of people watching live, so please get your questions in. So we don't want to take too much time with Rich up at all, because we can see he's got lots of work to do. So planning on getting it hopefully ready for the first Bellevue, or are you going to think of getting down to Kings Lynn?
We'd like to get down to Kings Lynn whenever, really. We're not fussy really where we go. If it's ready for the first Kings Lynn, it'll be ready. I'd like to have a practice or two in the tarmac car. Okay. It's a case of it's ready when it's ready, really. Excellent. Yeah.
And what's your plans for the future, do you think?
Just carry on racing as and when. Like I say, work, commitments, and I'm planning on getting married this year. Well, I am getting married this year. So thank you. So again, it's just fitting it in. And that's one of the reasons of putting the tarmac car together, because if we know we're free on a weekend, we can go here, there and everywhere without having to worry, because previously it's just been, we're only doing Shale meetings now. Just gives us a lot more flexibility.
Okay. And say 10 years time, where would this sport be still, do you think?
I'd like to think it'd still be in the current state it's in now. I'm not too involved in the political side, so I don't know what's down the pipeline for new tracks and things like that coming. I'd probably like to see a few new tracks. My probably personal goals, I'd like to go race in Holland for a weekend, experience that over there. So no, I'd hope it still continues to survive. Whether it becomes a travelling show or not, either way, at least we'll have something.
At least we'll have some racing. Yeah, brilliant. So just like to say thank Rich for his time. It's been absolutely brilliant. So we'll just have one more look around before we finish off. Just give anybody any time, if they've still got any questions that they'd still like to ask. We've just got a couple of more minutes that we'll have. And next week I'm going to the Jacquelines, I think. but I will let people know that as well. And then I'll probably have a couple of weeks off because we've got the Motorsport with Attitude show, which I'll be doing walkabouts on there. As well, but that won't be just for Formula One. That'll be talking to all the other oval formulas that are on display down there. So I'll be doing that for that weekend. We've got the charity boxing, don't forget, that's coming up in the next few weeks, and there's the male stripper thing coming up soon as well. So I am running out of weekends to fit these interviews in. I'll be doing the Waymans, of course, and Lee Fairest once they're back from New Zealand, so we'll be chatting with them as well. So just like to again thank Rich very, very much for his time. Do really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for watching, and look out for the interviews next weekend. Thank you very much.